Hello there, Vault Hunters, Caedo Genesis here, and due to the overwhelmingly good reception of the last list video that I did, welcome to another Caedo's Countdowns. This time I will be going over the most powerful legendary weapons that I found while playing through Borderlands 3, and which ones I just couldn't stop using due to either entertainment value, sheer damage output. Basically, it's a super subjective list, so if you have anything you'd like to contribute or add or correct me on, feel free to do that in the comments below. Also, myself, and I'm sure many others would like to see the locations in which you got those if you remember too. So anyway, let's get into the list. This is 10 of the most shootiest, blammiest, legendary gunnyists that I found in Borderlands 3 and stuff. First at number 10 is the Baby Maker, a TDR pistol with a lovely gradient color scheme, and supposedly is able to be of any element, and I'm guessing normal damage as well. The one I got myself was a shock variant, which proved devastating to shields and Iridian Guardians, so I suppose I should go over like what it does. It makes babies. The flavor text on the Baby Maker says safety off, which if you read it out loud, it's the reverse of safety first, you know. Due to it being a TDR, you throw it out when you reload it, and it creates 4 enemy-seeking smaller variants that fire at and fly directly into their nearest target. Now, surprisingly too, the base damage of this pistol is also seems to be pretty high. So not only was I dealing substantial damage to enemies while just firing, but the guns that I merved out seeked after foes and probably hit them more accurately than I did. The Baby Maker is just a nice combination of entertainment and damage value, but also, as far as I can tell, is a reward from one of the crew challenges if you collect all the parts for Claptrap. So that's how you should be able to get one yourself too. So go ruin someone's day by throwing a Baby Maker at them, in the game, to be clear. Ninth on this list is a rifle. Not just any rifle, Lucian's Call. This flat-off assault rifle has enough barrel spin to make you dizzy, and enough ammo capacity, and bonuses, to keep firing until your target is dead, if you're skilled enough at hitting weak points. The wood grain texture makes me think that this was some sort of weird collaboration / abomination between Jacobs and Vladoff, which could be the case. The flavor text on the rifle says, "What happened?" So that's my guess. The 2 Lucian's Call variants I received were a corrosive and an incendiary one, but I believe all elements and non-elemental is available. Those of you who have one or have gotten one, feel free to chime in. With the amount of barrels this thing has, you can assume really high bullet output. But what sets this apart from something like the Shred-a-Fire, which just has a really high rate of fire, if you're hitting a critical spot with Lucian's Call, your bullets will ricochet off of targets, and criticals will return bullets back to the gun. Again, if you're good enough with Lucian's Call, you don't have to refill ammo or reload, really. Just focus fire and win. The ricochets might even do some collateral. As far as I can tell, Lucian's Call is a world drop, so it can drop for you anywhere at any time, but higher odds of course may be from Mayhem 3 or bosses. Down to number 8, Flak the World, my friends. This is a returning shotgun from, I believe, the first game? No, Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel. Anyway, the Flakker is a Torg shotgun. Assume explosions, in this case, as many as possibly can fit on your screen. Now, I would recommend only busting this out if you're having difficulty or feel like being entertained with a lot of explosions, because the Flakker uses 5 shotgun ammo per shot. So you'll go through it really quickly, and it's ill-advised to use any other shotguns while you're using this one, because you may not have enough ammo for those also. One pull of the trigger, and a half a second later, the Flakker creates a cone of explosions in front of your character. Now, it is set up in a way to hopefully make sure that you're not caught in the blast, just make sure you're not moving forward at the same time. But who hasn't blown themselves up one way or another now and again? The Flakker I found is just standard damage, but an anointed variant, which has a splash damage increase after an action skill. Ooh. Beautiful. I resort to the Flakker usually if I'm just getting frustrated with an enemy. I'm looking at you, anointed militant. Or mess with the people in my party by not allowing them to see anything besides explosions. And before I forget, this is another world drop, but I believe I've gotten all of mine from the final boss. Either way, Flakker's fun, explosions for everyone. Torg would be proud. How about something a little different, with number 7 being a launcher called Scourge. This big green tubular Torg launcher is a tough set of words to say, but this thing also fires a giant rocket, which shortly after being fired has smaller projectiles orbiting around it, until they're close enough to seek targets and deal a devastating amount of damage. When not fighting large enemies or bosses, I often use the Scourge to fire over enemies to hit as many as I could with the orbiting projectiles, because they themselves have a decent area of effect too. And a certain boss in Skywell, who's basically made of shields, was made completely trivial with the shock Scourge that I ended up with. I wanted to include at least one launcher launcher that I kind of stuck with on this list because as of right now, there are no modifiers in Mayhem against using launchers, unless it's affecting the element that they have. So it is good to have something like this handy. And the Scourge, which is another world drop, is what I would recommend. Sixth on this list is a sniper rifle manufactured by Vladof. It is the triple-barreled Lyuda, which has a lovely purple and gold etched look to it, but also has a little bit of damage output, you know, as you'd expect from a sniper rifle. From what I've understood, playing around with this, but not really being a sniper type myself, is that 3 bullets are better than 1, and if you're not great at sniping in the first place, 3 bullets in a horizontal plane kind of guarantees you're going to hit your target. Making it fully automatic is an extra bonus, and a lot of elemental damage over time is a nice bit of icing on top. The Lyuda I ended up using the most was a radiation variant, and it just blew people up. Many meaty targets were red mist after 1 shot, and I found it quite satisfying to look at through a scope. Flavor text says man killer, and that just makes sense, because putting everything you can kill in that flavor text would like take over the whole tooltip thing. Man, woman, spider ant, rack, skag, traunt. I'd like to call this the etc. killer. If you are also up against a boss, just find their critical spot and hold down the trigger with the Lyuda. And also the best part, it is acquirable through the crew challenge, Zero's targets of opportunity. So if you assassinate all of the targets that Zero requests of you, he will send you, through the mail system, a Lyuda of your own. And based on experience from first playthroughs, I would recommend getting this just as a fallback plan if bosses are proving difficult. Or if you're a sniper, you know. Anyway, awesome sniper. Moving on. Ooh, we're getting into the creative ones. Number 5 is the Brainstormer. The first Hyperion weapon, but second shotgun on this list. First of all, let's talk about how it looks, because cool factor is an important stat too. Lightning Storm paint jobs are pretty neat. Because with being a Hyperion weapon, it does come with a deployable shield when you aim down the sights. And also with Hyperion tech, accuracy increases as it fires, which is an automatic plus. Especially with a shotgun where you gotta get in there. Shotgun. The flavor text on the Brainstormer is let's put our heads together. The shot spread on this thing is vertical, so hitting enemies in the head shouldn't be too terribly difficult. After all, it is a shotgun. I don't know if you caught that, but it comes with the shock element. And let's put our heads together means that there are going to be arcs of lightning between enemies if they're close enough to each other, doing a whole bunch of damage over time if you're consistently shooting one of them. So you can create your own lightning rod with the bigger, burlier enemies of the group and kill everything else around them while you're shooting at them too. Now, because this is a shotgun, this is going to be most effective against Iridian Guardians and people like the Malawan guys. This is a world drop. I got mine from the last boss, but your results of course may vary. There's a weird satisfaction with blinding yourself with lightning on screen and murdering everything at the same time. So try to get a Brainstormer, it's fun. It's a fun shotgun. The King's Call and the Queen's Call Jacob's alien-infested pistols. Both fall under number 4. These are boss killer pistols that you get from the end boss. Their general stats are identical, but the elements they come with, the King's Call and the Queen's Call, might be different. Anyway, the King's Call pistol I got had fire, and the Queen's Call had cryo. But after I got them both, I didn't feel like, getting more. First thing, this is a personal preference. The alien barrels look awesome on anything and add real fun effects to weapons, even like blues and purples. These pistols have the Jacob's crit effect. A critical hit will ricochet bullets out of the target and then back into the same position with the potential of critical hitting them again, and will return 3 bullets into its 6-bullet cylinder. And it takes 3 bullets per shot. So you get 2 non-crit shots before you have to reload. So if you're good enough at hitting critical spots and can deal with the recoil, this is just a boss murdering pistol. I do want to mention that even though it's number 4 on the list, this thing is absurdly powerful, okay? I'm just not a very good shot. Again, if you want to pick up the King's Call or Queen's Call yourself, these will drop from the boss at the end of the story of Borderlands 3. I'd like to put out a warning to any foes out there in the Borderlands universe that have large torsos. The Cutsman SMG will slice you into bits. I don't know if there's a gun that better describes itself, except maybe the Flakker. The flavor text reads, "Little android man born without a soul," and is a direct reference to a song by 100 Dead Rabbits called Cutsman. Back to the gun that references it, the Cutsman is a legendary Malawan SMG that still has a charge time on it and uses 2 ammo per shot. Negligible. Once it's charged up, it rapid fires horizontal beams that travel at a fairly slow speed, expanding as they go. Now watch it go through enemies with a lot of health, or armor, or shields. I ended up getting a fire Cutsman and a corrosive Cutsman, but a lot of the time it didn't seem to matter what the enemies were resistant to, because these beams do so much damage over time when they're passing through a target, and can hit crit spots while they're exiting too. If you can get up close to a boss, this is what I recommend whittling down their health bars with. For long range, of course, advising on the previous entry. I don't know, I was gonna do like a cool joke or something, or a clever one-liner for the Cutsman. I didn't mean to cut you off. Everybody needs some cuddles. Okay, I'm done. But it's also a world drop, so good luck getting it. I really hope you do though. Next gun. Entry number 2 on the gunniest, shootiest, blammiest, what? I don't remember what I said. Weapons that end things is Roisen's Thorns. This is a Torg pistol with one of the loveliest textures, just a whole bunch of roses all over the gun, and a nice shine to it as well. And I'm pretty sure the only one on this list with an alternate fire? Yeah, I should start from the top. Roisen's Thorns is my anything pistol. Correct me if I'm wrong, it only comes in a corrosive variant. However, being this is a Torg revolver, it can also come with the double penetrating prefix, which fires double projectiles costing double ammo, but the one I ended up with was a single shot, which when fired normally is accompanied by 4 explosive fireballs too. So those with armor and flesh are having a bad day if you point and click this pistol at them. Its alternate fire creates corrosive sticky bombs that are not accompanied by fire, but travel a lot faster. And if you're not used to using Torg weapons, they detonate when you reload the gun. Something I enjoyed greatly about this explosive pistol, despite the projectiles being a little slow, is the fact that because it's explosive, it has the potential to knock enemies down too. But I learned that there is so much damage output from this pistol itself, I end up going back to it frequently and keeping it in my loadout no matter what, as kind of a panic gun. Or panic pistol. And since I am an Amara player, being closer to enemies does more damage, and Amara players can add the element of their action skill to the guns they wield, meaning you can have 3 elements coming out of this gun at the same time, which I took full advantage of. Roisen's Thorns, so good. And again, beautiful to look at. It's a really beautiful pistol. Also a world drop. Moving on to the final. Number 1 out of the weapons that I have acquired throughout my adventures in the Borderlands. It may or may not be the same as yours. It is the Laser-Sploder. If Roisen's Thorns is number 1 on my loadout, this weapon is number 2. Wait, that doesn't make sense. If Roisen's Thorns is number 2 on my loadout, this is number 1. The flavor text says, lasers aren't equal to explosions? It's a Torg rifle. Torg threw that out the window completely when this gun was manufactured, obviously, because it fires a steady laser beam and rockets at the same time. I guess this is another self-described weapon too. I'm gonna backpedal on the self-describing thing I said about the Cutsman. There's a lot of weapons that do that, I guess. Anyway, I ended up with a fire variant of the Laser-Sploder that stuck with me for so long. And because beams kind of stick to the target where you fire first, and just hold down the trigger, the crits with it were just outstanding. It's a steady stream of critical hits until the target was no more. On top of that, the rockets that would fire out of it, of course, explode, so they could knock down the target too. And of course, do the extra burst damage if they're a larger target, and they take those hits too. The Laser-Sploder, for the longest portion of the time I've been playing Borderlands 3, as of right now, has been my go-to gun for taking out Anointed especially. I did end up with a shock variant as well, but it didn't seem to have the amount of punch that the fire variant did. Obviously because it's more focused on taking out shields than it is health. Most things have a health bar, not everything has a shield bar. So what I would recommend, I imagine that there's a radiation variant too, but what I would recommend is finding yourself a fire Laser-Sploder and just playing around with it for one. There's not much else I can say about this rifle. This is the big like final entry in the list, but it's an awesome rifle. It lasers and booms. That's all I'm gonna say. That's it. That's the end of the list. Is there anything you wish was on this list? Do you have go-to weapons in your loadout like I do? Please let me know in the comments below. And where you found it if you recall. I'm very much about sharing experiences on this channel, and mine are no more important than your own. And speaking of, all the people credited on screen now are patrons of the channel. Wasteland Legend Sven is one of them. If you'd like to support this channel being full-time, the Patreon link is here and in the description, as well as the merch. If you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do. Thank you so very much for watching. I'm Caedo Genesis, and may you wander the galaxy like you own it.